Testing, testing. Okay. All right.
Good evening. Welcome to our Monday, March 9th, 2026 regular meeting. We met earlier this evening in closed session, so we are now ready to begin the open session of our meeting, and we'll begin that with a moment of silence if you'd like to join us. Thank you. At this time, we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to begin our evening with some really exciting recognitions. So if Mr. Bo Dickinson would come up, he's going to be presenting the first 4 awards. These are all social studies recognitions.
Chair Hurst, members of the board, Dr. Shiflett, tonight I have the privilege of recognizing several Rockingham County schools, students, and educators. And these are folks who have earned state and national recognition for outstanding work in social studies and civic education. First, I'd like to recognize, and although he unfortunately can't be here at the last moment, I do want to recognize him publicly. And that is Mr. Steve Halteman. He's a second grade teacher, as many of you know, at John C. Myers Elementary School. Steve earned second place in the State Economic Education Awards from the Virginia Council of the Economic Education for his lesson, quote unquote, learning economics one scoop at a time. In this hands-on unit, students collect ingredients, produce trail mix, and run a small school sale while learning key economic concepts such as resources, producers and consumers, scarcity, and exchange. It's a joyful example of experiential learning that shows even our youngest students can begin to understand the fundamentals of how economies work. Next, in that same competition, I'd like to recognize Mrs. Kim Dove, who is here this evening, is able to be here this evening. She's an 8th grade civics and economics teacher at Wilbur S. Pence Middle School. Kim earned first place in the State Economic Education Awards from, again, the VCEE, which is the Virginia Council on Economic Education, for her lesson that is titled, The Ballad of Buyers and Sellers at an AI Serenade. In this creative lesson, students participate in auctions and marketplace simulations to understand supply and demand, and then use artificial intelligence tools to generate songs that explain how prices are determined in a market economy. We are fortunate to have strong teachers such as these with creative ideas, but also strong partners supporting this work in our schools. And one of those partners is the James Madison University Center for Economic Education, which works closely with teachers across our region to strengthen economic and financial literacy. And we are very pleased to have Ms. Lauren Shiflett, who's the Associate Director and former Rockingham County Schools teacher of the JMU Center for Economic Education, with us this evening. And at this time, I'd like to invite her up to say a few words about both Mr. Halterman and Ms. Kim Dove.
Hi, board. Thank you for having me this afternoon. One of the joys of after leaving the classroom and being able to take this position at JMU was to be able to work alongside educators and with the passion of economics. And I'll have to say about Mr. Haltman's lesson, we judge at the state level. We locally judge with Your Economic Success in the Rotary Club, but we also help judge at the state level. And Mr. Haltman placed second at our local level in his elementary category, but when it came to state, he placed second. And so it was nice to hear why. And part of that was there was no bells and whistles to it. It wasn't something you would see off of Teachers Pay Teachers, which a lot of the awards that come in are very pretty. It was just simple, and it was economics. And so as Mr. Dickinson said, that when we get down to just the fundamentals of elementary and how we can build upon that, he clearly showed that with just a hands-on simulation in his classroom. He's also a big supporter of our gym fair, which is our global entrepreneur market that we do in April. So we're really glad that he was able to be recognized for that. And also Kim Dove, who I have had the pleasure of working alongside for the last 4 years after taking this position. She's probably one of the first people that contacted me after I took this job. She's an incredible educator, but not just an educator, but an incredible person who consistently goes above and beyond in her classroom to enhance her students' economic education through creative and engaging approaches. And I know that sometimes artificial intelligence can get a bad rap, but when it's being used as a simple and effective tool to enhance a lesson by helping a teacher spark creativity, it works. It helped deepen the understanding and engage students in meaningful ways. And her lesson, as stated before, The Ballad of Buyers and Sellers, an AI serenade, is a wonderful example of how AI can support learning while still keeping students actively involved in the classroom. It also helps them in discussion, collaboration, and individual practice as they explore how supply and demand interact to determine prices in the marketplace. And I kind of just wanted to be in that class that day to be able to experience that. So we at Your Economic Success and the JMU Center for Economic Education are incredibly proud of Kimberly Dove and her outstanding accomplishments. Her achievement of placing first in the state is truly well-deserved and reflects the creativity, dedication, and passion she brings to her classroom and to economic education.
I should have said wait for applause, because Kim did not stop there. Kim was also selected as the Virginia Social Studies Teacher of the Year for the entire Commonwealth of Virginia. She received the Betsy S. Barton Award from the Virginia Council for the Social Studies, otherwise known as VCSS. In fact, both of those award ceremonies were scheduled for the same day in December, and Kim actually had to decide which state-level first place award she was going to attend and accept. And I have to think that's when you know you're killing it. The hardest decision you have to make is which statewide award you're going to show up and accept. So congratulations to you, Mrs. Dove. We'll have you come up and join us in just a moment. It's important to pause for a moment and talk about who Betsy Barton was. That's the namesake of this award. Betsy served for many years at the Virginia Department of Ed and was one of the most respected social studies leaders in the Commonwealth. I had the privilege of knowing her and working with her, and she was known for her deep love of democracy, civics education, her commitment to teachers, and her decades of dedicated service to students across Virginia. She was also a pure passion and a spitfire, and she would have absolutely loved Mrs. Dove. And they shared the same joy, the same humor, and the same fierce belief in democracy and civic education. We're honored tonight to have Ms. Sam Futrell, who is the outgoing president of the Virginia Council for the Social Studies, who has traveled all the way from Richmond to be with us in person and in recognition of the Betsy Barton Award and the accomplishments of Ms. Kim Dove. At this time, I'd like to invite Sam up to say a few words as well.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you all to recognize Kim for her second award. And I have to say that she did choose the Civics Award over our award to accept in December, but we won't hold that against you. When we went to Kim's school today to present her award, it was just so clear how beloved she is by her students and by the other faculty and the staff at her school. And it was just an honor to see her, in her natural environment, And I think that she is exactly the type of teacher, like Bo said, that deserves the Betsy Barton Teacher of the Year award. I want to just say a couple more things. I know we could wax on about Kim for hours tonight, but I did just want to mention that when we do talk about the purpose of social studies, especially right now where we are in the United States, we often say that our job is to prepare students for civic life. And in Kim's classroom, that idea isn't just a goal, it's the foundation of everything that she does. She brings an incredible level of creativity and energy to her teaching. As her students know, she teaches civic concepts through immersive simulations and hands-on projects, just like the AI one mentioned just a few minutes ago. So I'm incredibly honored to be here to present her with our Teacher of the Year award. It was incredibly competitive this year. And so I am just so pleased to be here to meet her in person and to just see and honor her for the incredible work that she does. So thank you so much. Thank you, Kim.
I want to thank you both for coming, representing your institutions. These are very valuable partners. We wouldn't be able to do the things that we do in classrooms and build the curriculum and the experiences that we do without outside partners like those two orgs. Finally, I'd like to recognize a student. Her name is Sierra Dickinson. She's an 8th grade student at Montevideo Middle School, and yes, we are related. Very proud that I have the great joy to be here both as a social studies leader and as a dad and parent. Sierra's essay reflects on the meaning of freedom through a local story. This was an essay competition that she was selected for as the Region 5 winner of Virginia 250, and it was the Expressions of Freedom competition sponsored by the Office of the Governor. She decided to write about a local story, and she chose to write about the Resilience Amid Resistance historical marker that was actually installed at the federal courthouse in Harrisonburg this past May. And Sierra must have been hearing about that, obviously, in our household, given that that was a project that involved 2 Rockingham County students, Priya Dua and Elizabeth Kidd. But I think Sierra found that story inspiring, learned about desegregation, learned about the recognition of the Harrisonburg Federal Court and Judge John Paul, and of course, that being the first court to implement the Brown decision in Virginia across the Commonwealth. Through this project, Sierra was able to meet several of the still living plaintiffs that connected to that story, who lived that history, who made that history. And that experience, I think, inspired her to draw a connection between 1776 and 2026. And that feels especially fitting as our nation prepares to celebrate 250 years since the Declaration of Independence. What does that mean today? How have people lived that throughout history, and how have people brought us forward closer to its ideals? Her essay reminds us the story of American freedom is really the story of the evolution of democracy. And that is an evolution that continues, and one that we still strive for, and one we defend. Gives me special pride to recognize my daughter tonight, not only as a student in Rockingham County Public Schools, but also as a student at Montevideo Middle School and a child within my household. I'll close with her words. She wrote, "Freedom isn't just a word in a history textbook or something that we celebrate once a year on the July 4th holiday. It's something we all have to keep working toward as a country every single day." Thank you all for these recognitions today, and please, let's have all of our award winners come forward. We'd like to recognize you and honor you with a certificate of these accomplishments. So Kim Dove.
Have them walk across here so we can.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
See, what a great idea. Thank you. Thank you.
Sierra.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, photo
Oh.
op for great. Yeah.
Thank you.
And do photo op for whenever you're done.
Thank you all very much. It's very proud to be the social studies leader of a division with teachers and students that accomplish things such as these.
But you know I have a question.
Well,
Oh, sure.
but
Go right
wait,
ahead.
there's more. But
Don't go anywhere.
don't go anywhere. But wait, there's more. Miss Donna Abernathy is actually going to present a special award to our very own Bo Dickinson.
Yes, so thank you for staying up here, Mr. Dickinson. So Chair Hurst, board members, Dr. Shiflett, I'm here to extend a hearty congratulations to Mr. Bo Dickinson on being named the National Social Studies Supervisor of the Year by the National Social Studies Leaders Association. This prestigious award recognizes leaders who inspire educators, advocate for excellence in social studies, and demonstrate outstanding vision in the field. As a social studies supervisor for Rockingham County Public Schools, Mr. Dickinson has dedicated his career to advancing inquiry-based instruction and advocating for more inclusive standards at the state level and mentoring educators across Virginia. In RCPS, Mr. Dickinson has worked closely with teachers to embed inquiry across grade levels. One notable example is a fourth grade investigation of Barbara Johns and the student strike that helped spark the Board versus Brown of Education decision. The lesson developed by RCPS teachers and supported by Mr. Dickinson was featured on the cover of Social Studies in the Young Learner, highlighted in an article he co-authored with Dr. Emma Thacker of James Madison University and later showcased nationally on NPR's Mindshift podcast. Mr. Dickinson has also helped lead a major shift in assessment practices by partnering with teachers and Dr. Kathy Swan, an associate professor of curriculum and instruction at the University of Kentucky, to replace traditional SOL tests in several courses with inquiry-based performance assessments that require students to analyze sources and construct historical arguments. This work was published in Social Education in the article Teaching to a Better Test, and has gained attention as a model for assessment reform. In addition, Mr. Dickinson has maintained a decades-long partnership with the Moton Museum, helping develop the Farmville Tour Guides project in collaboration with Mrs. Joan Johns Cobbs, the sister of Barbara Johns. Through this project, students researched the history of the 1951 Moton student strike and serve as museum tour guides, helping younger students understand the origins of the Brown versus Board of Education case. The initiative later expanded into the student-produced documentary, Knocking Down Walls, which was featured on Good Morning America and contributed to the installation of a Virginia State historical marker recognizing the Harrisonburg Federal Courthouse as the site of the first court decision to implement the Brown decision in Virginia. This event highlights the importance of learning how national events unfold in our own community. So we are extremely proud of Mr. Dickinson's dedication to bringing history to life for our Rockingham County Public School students.
You have to walk.
Oh,
You get to do that all.
I'm gonna hug you. I got to sit on this end this time.
Miss Fleur, did you have any questions for Mr. Dickinson? Okay. Okay. Congratulations to everyone here that is an award winner. It's pretty awesome. Okay, so moving on with other board business tonight, the next item on our agenda are the public comments, and no one signed up for those. So we'll move on to the next thing, which is the consent agenda. Board members, there are a few items in the consent agenda for your approval. The minutes from February 18th, 2026, the minutes from February 23rd, 2026, field trips, a personnel listing. And with those things in mind, I would like a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Lohr.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Cave. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor to approve the consent agenda, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All those opposed say no. Motion passes 5-0. We'll now move into our action items, the first of which is a bid recommendation for a modular classroom for Lacey Springs, brought to us by Mr. Steve Reed.
Chair Horst, Dr. Shiflett, members of the board. The bid for the modular classroom was properly specified and advertised. We had 5 suppliers. Were sent bid packages and received bids from 2. Our recommendation is to award the contract in the amount of $179,772 to Mobile Modular Management Corporation from Livermore, California.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Dr. Shiflett?
Chair Hurst and board members, I recommend awarding the bid for a modular classroom at Lacey Spring Elementary School to the lowest bidder as presented by Steve Reed, Director of Maintenance.
Thank you, Dr. Shiflett. Board members, do we have a motion?
I move to follow the superintendent's recommendation. I'm just going to leave it at that because I can't talk tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Fleur. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Burgoyne. Board members, do you have any questions for Mr. Reed?
So is this this is brand new
Brand new.
modular? Okay. Do we get more than one school out of them? Do we,
This unit is large enough to get 2 classrooms.
okay. But like obviously we have modular units throughout the division. Do we
Not-
ever move
Not
them?
near like we used to have, no.
That's true.
Yeah, we do move them. I mean, there was one year that we moved 20-some. That was a number of years ago. Right now, we don't have any that we would say are free to move, that are not needed at schools they're at.
Just curious about those
No.
little details about modular units that I wasn't familiar with. So figured you guys would find it interesting too.
Ms. Cave?
Were you going to say something or
Mhm.
you just, I guess when you say not nearly as many as we used to,
Mhm.
one thing when we were talking about safety with
Mhm.
Caleb, Mr. Bailey, he does not like modular units. And here we are adding another one. And nothing against you, but we were sort of talking about it earlier and wondering if we're utilizing all the space at Lacey like we should, or are there any rooms that we could use as opposed to getting another modular unit? I would love to see us have no modular units. I know that's probably a pipe dream, but, across the division, but are we utilizing space? And I don't know if that's a question for you, Mr.
Yeah,
Reed. I
well,
apologize, but.
I can say that not within this year, but end of last year, I walked the building with the principal there and we looked at every space and she was using everything that she had. So yeah, there was really nothing available.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. At this time, we'll take a vote on the motion to follow superintendent's recommendation to award the bid for a modular classroom at Lacey Springs to the lowest bidder as presented by Steve Reed. All those in favor, please say yes. Yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. The next action item that we have are 2 policy revisions. I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Shiflett.
Yes, thank you, Chair Hurst. At our meeting on February 23rd, I presented some revisions to policy JC, school attendance areas, and JEC-R, admission of non-resident students. And I would like to recommend approval of the proposed policy changes as presented.
Thank you, Dr. Shiflett. Board members, do we have a motion to follow his recommendation?
I move to follow the superintendent's recommendation to approve the proposed policy revisions as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Lord. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Burgoyne. Board members, do you have any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, say yes. Yes. All those opposed, say no. Motion passes 5-0. That moves us into information items. Tonight, we have 2 information items. Mr. Chris Sowers is going to present to us a RCPS transportation fleet update.
Thank you. Chair Hurst, Dr. Shiflett, members of the board. Thank you. Thanks for having me here to speak this evening to give some information about our current fleet. You'll see as we go through some of these slides here, the majority focus of this is certainly on the bus fleet, but there is a slight mention of our car fleet as well, our white fleet, which consists of sedans, trucks, service vans and minivans. But all right, so the VDOE Administrative Code for Purchasing says that the responsibility for purchasing school buses and school activity buses, which meet state and federal requirements, rest with division superintendents and local school boards. A schedule for the replacement of buses on a continuing basis shall be developed and implemented by each school division. So VDOE comes up with recommendations that they say that school districts in Virginia should be following, but there's no strict rule. They don't say you have to do this or you have to do that. They just say that whatever it is that you all come up with, meaning school board superintendent, as a division, once it's in place, we should be following it, right? But there's no set guideline that says that you have to do anything other than have some sort of a schedule. So a recommendation that they're providing is based on what a lot of other school districts in Virginia are doing, and that is replacing buses once they reach to be somewhere in the 12 to 15-year-old range and or around 200,000 miles. And the recommendation is to replace close to 10% of the fleet annually. Again, the guidelines are not strictly enforced, but they expect adherence to the schedule once it's created. So our shop foreman who's here with me tonight, Jake Good, and I reached out to numerous other school divisions mainly within our general area within Virginia, just to kind of get an idea of what it is that they were doing as far as their replacement schedule goes. And we heard back from 9 different divisions, and they're summarized up here. I'll just start with the first one to kind of work down, but I didn't mention names of the divisions, but I obviously know exactly who each one is. But so School District A, they have a plan in place. They're on year 4 or 5 right now with their school board to replace roughly 12 buses a year, which ends up being about 8% of their entire fleet. Their director actually told me that's actually bumped up to about 13 buses a year now because they started replacing an activity bus every year. School District B has an agreement to replace 4 buses a year, which is about 6.5% of their fleet. C replaces 3 to 5 buses a year, or 6 to 10%. And then School District D is age-based. So they're replacing on a schedule of once a bus reaches about 20 years old, they're replacing it then. School District E is more of an approximation. So they do not have an exact plan policy written in place, but they replace about 10% of their fleet annually. And then F, G, and H are kind of similar to what we've been doing, which is basically we replace buses when we have money to replace buses, right? There's no set rule or how many we do. It's just when we have the money, we replace them. So, and then School District I is on a 15-year, replaces buses on a once they reach 15 years of age, and they're on a 5-year rotation schedule as part of their capital improvement plan is what they informed us. So the key takeaways there obviously is that strategies vary significantly. Some are age-based, some are a percentage, some obviously depend on when funding is available. I can say that School District B, the one who's replacing 4 districts, they told me that they have an agreement with their Board of Supervisors who's actually, they just purchased the buses for them. So all the others seem to go through somehow with the school board.
Approximately what size are they? I mean, I could probably do math, but they're not huge, right?
They're about 60 buses total,
Okay.
60, yeah.
How long does it take on average for a bus to get to 200,000 miles?
I'll get there in just a second, I think, yeah. So our bus fleet age. So I have the next 2 slides. This one's about age, the next one's about mileage. So the age, so currently we have 228 total buses. This is strictly buses. The next slide, or 2 slides or so from now, you'll see me talk about the cars and vans, but strictly speaking about our buses, 8 of those are activity buses. So at each high school, there's a small activity bus and a large activity bus. The small bus is a 14-passenger, the large bus is a 77-passenger. Those are not used for transporting children to and from school. They're just used for transporting to and from activities. Those are now 9 and 10 years old, right? So they're 2016, 2017 models. The average of our fleet, the age is about roughly 14 years old, or right around 2012 model year. Of our 228 buses, we have over 110 that are at least 15 years old. That number is actually 114, so it's exactly half of our current fleet. The buses are 15 years old. Of those, we have 60 buses, or over 60, it's 62, that are at least 20 years old. We have 26 buses currently that are 25 years old at least, and we have 6 buses that are at least 30 years old. It's 15 years old. Right. That's correct. Yeah. We keep on keeping on. Yeah. Yep.
How many of those 6 are spares?
All.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, all 6 of those buses are spares. There's a couple at the shop right now, but we still have some housed at a couple schools right now as spares. I mean, they're not being used obviously for, you know, we're not driving to Blacksburg on a FFA trip or anything with those, right? There, if we have a bus mechanical issue, a breakdown, something wrong, right? Then we may
Ice
run
goes
out
through the
to,
windshield. We had that this year.
yeah.
Mhm.
Then we may run out to, you know, Broadway High School, and a driver might pick up one of those buses to take kids to around town in Broadway, right?
Would you say the same is true for the 25 years old, or do you have, are some of those?
Some of those are still running.
Some of those
yeah,
are
daily
still
routes.
doing
Yeah.
daily routes? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
because these are just very, I want to say shocking numbers. Yeah, well, this is what I asked for. This is what I asked for. So the spares,
Uh-huh.
how often do you use a spare? Is this like once a week somebody has to grab one, once a month?
I get to drive them a lot.
Yeah, Miss Ford drives them all the time. So, and I think you've probably driven anywhere from some of the older ones to some of the newer ones. Yeah,
When you
yeah,
when you retire from the board, we'll gift you a bus.
Yeah.
One of these really dinosaur buses. No.
yeah,
How often are they used?
yeah. I'd say on average, I mean, all of our daily route buses, again, they're not the 30-year-old buses, but a couple of those would be 25 years old. So those are run every day.
Mhm.
We have a few substitute drivers that often will travel around depending on where they're driving, and they may go pick up a bus. So some of them may, you know, I'd say once a week maybe would go pick up bus, you know, whatever, 194 at Broadway High School, which is a 1995 model, I believe, you know, so. And again, drive a route around the Broadway area, or same thing out at Spotswood. Dr. Scheichel, when he was here and he was coaching the girls soccer team at Spotswood, it was funny because he would always commented to Jake numerous times about how he never wanted us to get rid of bus. The 186, which I believe is a 95 model bus, because whatever he would drive, that's what he would use. And even though it was an older bus, it ran, it started, it was great, he loved it. So, you know, so the older buses still serve a purpose, right? They're just, they've got some age on them for sure, and some mileage. All right, speaking of mileage, so our average mileage right now, the average on all the buses would come down to about 136,000 miles. We have more than half the buses, so 118 currently are over 100,000 miles, and about half of that number are over 150. 49 buses currently are over 200,000 miles. Close to half of those are over 250,000. And then large mileage, right? 3 buses we currently have are over 350,000 miles. And one of those is about 7,000 or 8,000 away from topping 400,000. And that bus was up until Christmas, up until winter break, that bus was a daily route bus. The driver who, Miss Laura, you would probably remember Lois Baker got that bus. She drove in the Broadway area for 30 some years. She got it new many years ago and ran it every day. And it's a great bus, great running, high quality. She retired 2 years ago. And we used it, continued to use it on a route. And then the driver who was driving it, she resigned, and due to, you know, driver issues, we kind of ended up consolidating that route. So that bus is no longer in operation daily, but it was driven today as a spare bus. So it does still get driven, you know. We actually house it. I think we actually might have it out right now for a spare somewhere. We keep it at the shop when it's not in use, so. And then just to throw out our white fleet numbers, right? This is the only slide I have dedicated to this, just our cars, vans, sedans, and trucks. We have 104 total vehicles that we operate at the bus garage. 71 of those have over 100,000 miles. 22 of those have over 200,000, and the fleet averages about model year 2013 on about 138,000 miles. All right, so the next slide has to do with what we actually do every day and annually. So every year, the third week of October, every school division in Virginia does a ridership report or a pupil transportation report, where basically we have all of our drivers track the number of students that are riding the bus, and they track each student that's on the bus for 5 consecutive days. And they also track the mileage for 1 day. And we then, of course, put everything into a spreadsheet. It gets filtered out, and we figure out rough averages as a school division for what it is that we're actually doing on a daily basis, which then equates into an annual basis. So you can see that the number of students that we transport daily is a little over 70. This is from 2024, 2025. Sorry, I didn't say that, even though it's up there. We do it every October. So last October is when we submitted the, or I'm sorry, last October, yeah, is when we submitted the report for the 2024, 2025 school year. So we won't actually have this year's officials numbers until later in the fall. So, but you can see then, so it was about 7,100 students we transport daily. Our live miles, which is miles with students on board, right? When you actually you pick up your first student and you drop off your last student. That comes out to be, on an annual basis, about 954,000 miles. Break that down daily. It's based off of 180 days. That's what the formula equates to. So it's not going to be exact because of missing snow days and things like that. But it comes out to be about 5,300 daily live miles. Dead miles, miles without students, about 619,000. Breaks down daily to about 3,400. And the buses in operation were about 160 for the regular education buses. So the next slide is our exclusive transportation, which is our SPED buses. Again, this is not factoring in any of our vans and cars that we run for special transportation daily, which ends up being about 35 vehicles total that we do every day. But this strictly for buses for this time period was 15. Daily usage comes up to about 160 students we're transporting. Live miles of a little over 170,000, breaks down daily to about 950. Dead miles a little under 156,000, and daily dead miles was 865. So if we add everything together and we come up with totals here, and we throw in some numbers for extra trips, right? Field trips, athletics, summer school, things like that, we come up with the numbers up there. So live miles are about 1.1 million, daily 6,250. Other miles, again, field trips, athletic trips, things like that, we're looking at over 260,000. Dead miles almost 775, daily dead miles 4,300, for a grand total of about 2,162,000. And the last slide. This is, we were quoted, Jake and I got in touch with Kingmore Supply, which sells the buses that we operate. They're located in Mount Crawford, so they're a local company here in Rockingham County. They're based here, they were founded here. They have branches now in Northern Virginia and in the Hampton Roads area, but their home base is still under Mount Crawford, where on Route 11 South, where Evers used to be, if you remember the restaurant Evers. So, and we were quoted. We contacted somebody there. The quote for a regular bus of a 77 passenger, which is the max capacity that we can legally carry in Virginia, is quoted at about $141,000 this year. And a special transportation bus with a wheelchair lift and with air conditioning and for the driver, as well as the front and the rear of the bus, comes out to about $144,000. The 77 passenger only includes driver AC. It's about $10,000 more for AC throughout the bus. So that's our numbers.
Board members, I'm sure there are questions. Who would like to go first?
I have a question. When it comes to buses, I imagine like cars, 40 years ago, they didn't have much technology in them and now they're just covered in it. Are buses like that, or buses typically, like what has changed? Is it changing progressively and increasing the cost?
They have changed over the years, certainly. There's a lot more electronic equipment into a bus now, right? It's a lot of sensors, a lot of diagnosing buses, and Jake can attest to this a lot better than I can, but when you're diagnosing an issue, it's hooking up a computer to it and running the platform that way, right? And figuring out what the problem is. it's easy if you have a leak somewhere and you can see that you have a hose that's busted, right? That's simple to fix. But when you have to dig in deeper, then it comes a lot of technology that goes involved into doing it. So that's where all of our guys on the road have laptops and we're diagnosing that way. So yeah, there is a lot more technology that goes into the buses for sure.
So does that at all contribute to how we can have buses that are 30 years old and still operational, just because like they're really top-notch quality?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a lot of it. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is the quality of the buses that we still operate, even though they are obviously quite a bit old. You know, they still run, right? And our mechanics do a heck of a job actually keeping them running. That's you know, I cannot attest enough to what they do, right? I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, it's a hard job. Those guys are out. We do inspections of our buses every 30 days. You know, the state requires every 45 days, but we do it a little bit more than that. So we're making sure that everything is operable, they're running properly. With that being said, obviously there are things that, you know, pop up and things happen, right? So I think Jake and I were talking earlier, we're at right now 10 or 11 buses or so that have some age on them that are soon most likely going to start looking to need new engines, right? New motors in those buses. And we just got quoted about $32,000 to replace a engine. And the question is, do we want to put $32,000 into a bus that's got 200,000 miles and is 22 years old, right? That's a question. But yes, what we have, we keep running because we have great mechanics who keep them going.
That was my other question about school district D on the fourth slide or so. Is it cost effective to continue to fix buses, you know, like as you just said, because especially given that particular district replaces every 20 years?
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is basically it depends, right? It depends on what the issue is and what it's going to cost, right? I mean, if we're talking about just building or buying parts to reconfigure a motor, I mean, we were pricing some stuff earlier, and we're still looking at $20,000 to $25,000 by the time it's all said and done to get what we need. That's if we can find the parts that we need to buy to get it. That's a catch also with a lot of these older buses. It's just like you can imagine with your vehicles, right? Your cars. It's hard to find equipment, right? It's hard to find stuff that we can actually use that's got some age to it.
Can you tell the rest of the group how you do the maintenance on the buses? And because I feel like in Rockingham, we do a better job than a lot of these other school districts as far as like oil changes at this time and the inspections and all that. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because you guys do a great job. And I want you to toot your own horn a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to let Jake toot his horn a little bit. Yeah.
And I need a good bus coming up there. I'll be taking that real old one.
How y'all doing? I'm Jake from over the shop, so I'm a little nervous. First time I've been up here to talk to y'all, but we got a real good maintenance program years ago. Our maintenance program, you know, it's got to evolve with your fleet and with everything else. And the last 10 years or so, we've really brought our maintenance program up. At one time, there was nothing for us to have 2 buses broke down in every area every morning and every evening. Now, if we have 1 bus broke down a day, that's something big. That's the last big snowstorm we had. Every one of our buses started except for one that was in park or a drive. We get to the bus.
Think back to how cold it was for those couple of weeks.
And I had a division call me and say, "Hey, how did y'all do that?" I said, "Well, with our maintenance program." "Well, tell me about your maintenance program." So I'm telling him about our maintenance program. He's like, "Well, we can't afford to do that." I'm like, "Okay, well, how many buses did you have not start this morning?" He said 37. I said, "Okay, every one of ours started except for one that wasn't in neutral. So you can either pay now or pay later." It costs a lot of money to do the maintenance on them, but in the end run, it's for the good of the kids to make sure. And I know y'all probably don't want to hear this. I'm not concerned about them being late. I'm concerned about them being safe. I'd rather them be an hour late and safe than on time and not safe. And that's one thing we preach to the guys is safety. And it costs us a lot of money to keep safety and stuff, but it's what we got to do to keep the buses going. And we've got a heck of a maintenance program. We've got other divisions that call us and want a copy of our maintenance plan because they know we got a good program going. And it's like me and him was talking earlier. Some of our buses now, the ones we were talking about, the engines, if the parts are available, it's $14,000 just for the parts. And I know our labor's immaterial because we're already there getting paid for it. But you're talking $14,000 just for parts for a 20-year-old bus and the engine. we can't put the engine in anymore because it voids the warranty if we put the engine in. So we have to have international deal or somebody put the engine in for us because we can't, well, I mean, we can do it, but it voids the warranty on it. And you don't want to void the warranty on a $25,000 engine.
You want to tell them about 30-day inspections?
Yeah, the State Department requires every 45 days, you physically, like you take your car to a shop somewhere and get it state inspected. We have to do that to a bus every 45 days. But we do it every 30 just because we like that extra little safety buffer in there. And then it takes us about 3 weeks to check them all. And then it takes us, and we do the cars too. The state law says you don't even have to do cars. But we want to do cars just for, I want to make sure the kids are safe. It gives me a little peace of mind knowing the kids are safe. And we do them every 30, and then it takes us 3 weeks to do them all, and then it takes us 3 weeks to fix all the problems, and then we start over again. We just started again today with the fourth one for this year. And that's, any questions?
Do we have higher costs for our maintenance because some of these are so old?
To be honest with you, the maintenance cost on the old ones are not as high as the maintenance cost on the new ones because of the emissions and stuff. Like we just had one 2 weeks ago, they call it the DPF, the diesel particulate filter. It went bad. It was $14,000 just to replace, and that bus didn't have 65,000 miles on it. And $14,000 was our cost. I don't know what it would cost somebody off the street to walk in there and buy the parts. Because we buy so many parts off of them, they give us a good discount. But the newer buses, when you have something happen with the after treatment, they call it, with the DEF fluid and stuff, you can forget it. It costs you a fortune. And you got to have it. You can't run it without it. It's illegal to delete it.
It shouldn't pass inspection.
Right. Right.
So the dinosaur buses are cheaper, but
if you can,
find it.
Right. If you know what you need.
Right. See, like the last two dinosaurs that we had that went down, they don't make the parts for them anymore. So I got a shop at my house, and I took the parts home and machined them to make them fit. We took 3 different buses and made one.
And if we have a bus that's in an accident, right, we have a breakdown, we have an accident that the bus ends up getting totaled, right? I mean, a lot of times, if it's cost effective and functional for us to do it, we'll buy the bus back or get the bus back from our insurance company, right? We pay a minimal, usually salvage fee, and we get that back. Well, a lot of times, there may be, say, frame damage, let's say, for a bus, right? Well, the state's going to say, or law enforcement's going to say, or the insurance is going to say, you can't run that bus anymore, it's total. But if it's happened in the rear of the bus, everything under the hood is still functional and works fine. So we have a graveyard, a junkyard, whatever, kind of at our shop that we have, some buses that are still left behind, and we'll strip them and make use of what we have, just to make use of what we have without having to buy extra equipment, sometimes extra parts.
Did the one that got hit in Louisa County join the boneyard?
That joined the boneyard.
And it was a relatively new bus, so it was good that we could at least salvage some of that,
one was
right?
less than 10 years old. Yeah, it was probably 6 or 7 years old.
It had 58,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
But it'll come in good for parts. Nobody got hurt. That's the main thing.
It's actually a little bit too, Jake and I were talking earlier, it's a little bit too new of a bus to, the engine won't work in the older buses because it's just a newer engine, right? So what we actually need to start looking at maybe replacing soon, that's not one we can use, so. Yeah.
Well, I want to say big thank yous to our transportation department and team.
And I'll tell you, he was saying it earlier, I'd put our maintenance, I'd put our guys up against anybody. Our guys, and I'm not saying it because I used to be one of the guys in the shop, but our guys are top notch. It's the best group of mechanics you're ever going to want to be around. And we have people trying to steal them all the time.
I think that shows when you look at the age of some of our vehicles and the mileage on them. I think my question is, I've only been on the board 2 years. This is my third round of budgets. My question, I think, is what are your recommendations? I know what we didn't do the last 2 years. Usually when things get a little tight, we have to make cuts.
Sure.
I think this is universal. Boards will end up deferring maintenance on something to get by. Obviously, we can't keep doing that. And I know in our budget discussions, how many do we have? 8. We've put 8 in for this year. that's a good start. But what are your recommendations? Because like you said, we kind of have an ad hoc. We replace a few buses when we have a little extra
That's it.
money.
Yeah.
Is that the best way to go?
Not at all, no. So by no means is that the
No.
best way to do it.
What is your recommendation?
Yeah, so my
Well, before you go to your recommendation, while you've been here, I've been here longer than you have, and I can't remember more than 4 in a year. What's the most we've done while you've been here?
I believe we bought 6 last year. Is that right,
Oh,
Justin?
well,
Yeah.
then I guess I wasn't paying attention last
6.
year.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but that's like 1%.
Right.
Yeah.
On
And-
average, 3 or 4 is
That is
about
What
What we've
the
been
right number.
doing.
Fleet.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's what we've done.
And we should be doing about 22 to keep up with 10%.
So if that's, yeah, so if we were replacing about 10% of our fleet, yes, it would be about 22 buses. Realistically, I'd probably recommend if somehow we could end up getting to around 15 buses a year, that really would be ideal. If you just think about the math on it, right, 225 buses, we do 15 buses, replace them, run them for 15 years, and then it's time to start over again, right? Is that right? 15, 225, I think. So that would be a good number to get to, I think. I mean, 20 would be obviously fantastic. 10 would be great. You know, I mean, if we can get somewhere up closer to there, we're in pretty good shape. But yeah, I mean, again, a lot of the other school districts that we talked to, I mean, nobody was less than 6% of the fleets, and most of them were 6 to 8, somewhere in that area is what they were doing. Now, I will say, I mean, we're substantially larger than every district we heard back from, too. You know, we have, 220 daily buses, right? Or 220 buses that are actually on the road, could be on the road, minus the activity buses. Whereas a lot of the schools, I think the largest one that I talked to, other than us, was about 150 buses. So, you know, it's quite a difference, right?
And the prices go up. They're crazy. 4 years ago, you could buy one for $86,000. 4 years ago, $86,000. The five we bought in July was 126,000.
Wow.
And now they're 144, 141.
Yeah.
The year before that, they were about 112, 113.
That's how
So
quick they went up.
Bus with just some heat, no AC.
that's a basic bus with heat throughout the bus, and then it has driver AC. So just think of like in your car, like in-dash AC with the air blowing on you on a vent.
It costs
All the
more.
AC with those windows.
It costs more now to get it without the driver AC. It costs $500 more to get it without the driver AC because it's all standardized, and they have to take it off the assembly line and block everything off. So you got to pay more to get it without the driver AC.
We have, of our total fleet, we have about 25 sped buses, and we just retrofitted 2 sped buses, a couple months ago, that have AC in them. There's a lot of, Chris Bryan could probably attest to this better than I can, but there's a lot of IEPs now with students that are required to have AC in their transportation, right, in their vehicle home. So if they're in a bus, we're having to add more to that. And it cost us $14,000 per bus to retrofit it. And that's because it's, you know, they had to move switches and change other things around and put it in. But so it costs more to do it after the fact than it does to do it when you're building the bus.
And how many of our current regular buses, how many of those have air conditioning currently?
So the driver
It's,
AC is
yeah.
just on the ones that we've purchased in the last, 2 years? So I think it's 9 of them total.
So it's 9 of
Yeah.
them. And do you think, because, I mean, I got an opinion, but do you think that would help with driver retention and recruitment?
I mean, it certainly wouldn't hurt.
I
right?
definitely know I'd like driving
yeah.
it better in
It's
June.
it's nice. I mean, just think about, you know, driving a school bus without AC and on, you know, the second week of May, right? Or
That's
first week
the
of June.
only kind I ever get.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
and it's hot.
It's
Mhm.
hot in there. You roll all the windows down all you want, but it still gets hot in that bus, right? And while the driver AC obviously doesn't solve every problem, it is helpful, you know, when you do have cold air at least blowing on you as you have the sun beating right in on the windshield in front of you.
I will just share a personal story. My uncle is a bus mechanic, and I have not called him because he'll probably yell at me. So you guys need to buy them more buses. But he is a bus mechanic in Indiana. And when they have really old buses, they do a school bus derby, like at the fairgrounds or whatever. And I got to go to one years ago. And it was a blast because everybody got to decorate these buses and all the money went to a good cause. So I just want to throw it out there in case we want to have a school bus derby with these dinosaurs eventually.
We'll drive, Dr. Shiflett can drive, Ms. Lore can drive.
For a good cause, we could have a TA bus, the spots would, I'm just saying, okay?
Yeah.
Do it at the fairgrounds. I would certainly pay and come out and raise money for the schools. It was a lot of fun. I just remember that when I was in high school going to that.
Does the transportation budget count as the good cause?
Yeah, absolutely, yes, it is 4 more buses, but it was a blast, so.
We have made use, I mean, some buses that we just need to take out of service, they eventually become junk buses for various reasons. And we've donated buses to MTC before, but they've used for a couple programs there for kind of turning them over.
Yeah, they've got
Yeah,
one
I think they have
currently.
one out there now that they're working on. We've donated one to Fire and Rescue in Rockingham County so they could use, and they may just take it and push it down a hill and then show what you need to do to, evacuate from it, right? But it gets no other use other than that, so, but, yeah. And then we sell at an auction that we do every fall, we usually have a few buses that we end up, I think we only had 1 or 2 this year, but normally we'll have a few buses we end up selling for minimal money.
What do they usually bring at these auctions? How much?
Steve, a couple $1,000, if that. Yeah.
When we get done with them, you don't want it. I mean, you might want it to make a garage out of it or something, or like a.
Well, I'm just wondering if Ms. Burgoyne wants to do
we can probably make
they'd be good for that.
they'd be great for
school
that.
bus derby.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what the trade-off is.
Sure.
So about $1,000 we would give up in exchange for the derby.
In exchange for a derby.
Right. Other than being in an accident, the only thing that we really junk them for is body rot. And we just run into one today, it's gonna be like $8,000 to fix it. It's a 95 model. You're not gonna spend that on a 64 passenger bus. But that's why the biggest reason we get rid of them is body rot. It's not for mechanical stuff.
Yeah.
Now, another big question. Do we have enough drivers to drive all these buses?
No, ma'am.
And how do we fix that?
Right, yeah, that's the $1 million question. We're always looking for drivers, right? We're always recruiting folks. We're always offering classes. We have classes every month now. Usually every other month. It's in the evening. The off months is during the day still, so we can usually accommodate most folks' schedule. We do have a handful of teachers that drive for us on a daily route, so they have contracted positions do that. I know we talked a couple years ago where now to go towards retirement, right, for the VRS, now if a teacher is driving a bus as well, then that additional money that they're making as a bus driver is majorly beneficial to them now to make more money, and especially down the road for when it comes to retirement. So that's a big factor. But yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing battle trying to get folks to drive every day, right? I mean, we just had a class that just finished up last week. We had 2 people in there. It's great to have 2 people, but we could use 12 people, right?
I was gonna say, you need 10 more.
Yeah, we need 10 more. So
How much does it cost to train somebody and who's paying for it? Like those 2 people?
yeah, so we pay our trainers currently $30 an hour. So we put in roughly between 45 and 50 hours of training into a new trainee, a new applicant.
Do we ever have any issues where they get trained by us and then go elsewhere?
Yes, ma'am.
We have talked about that.
Yeah.
With the policy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have discussed that before. It doesn't happen like it once did, but between us, Harrisonburg City, Augusta County, right, some local divisions, not a lot of people were job hopping between school divisions like that, at least getting trained here and going to drive in Harrisonburg, because it's pretty much the same program, no matter how you slice it, right? But there may be somebody who's just wanting to get a bus to go drive a dump truck, right? Or to get a license to go drive a dump truck, for example. And now the federal government says that everybody is required to go forth with a certain amount of training hours to become compliant to be able to drive a CDL vehicle, right? A commercial vehicle. Well, if you go to a local community college, for example, to pay to become a driver, that's going to cost you a few $1,000s, right? We don't charge people to come train with us. We just expect them to drive for us once they get completed training, and sometimes that's easier said than done.
We're going to go down this rabbit hole, but is there like a top 1, 2, or 3 complaints about the job of being a bus driver that you hear on repeat?
Yes, ma'am.
What are those?
I mean, pay, of course, is always a concern, right? But that's a concern no matter where you look, where you go. That's a concern. I mean, since I've been here in the last 5.5 years, we have jumped our numbers up quite a bit as far as our daily pay that the drivers get as a contracted position. When I first started, it was around $17 an hour, I believe, in 2021, and now we're up to close to $21 an hour. So a little under, it's about 2073, I think, exactly. Again, we're talking about 3.5 hours a day, 17.5 hours a week. So, when you move that out over the course of a year, it's not a ton of money, but it is beneficial because they're considered full-time employees and get full-time employee benefits, right? So that's always obviously a concern, is of course pay more. But the number one concern that I hear and other transportation directors I speak with throughout Virginia really hears is student behavior, right? Working through discipline issues. And I was actually working with Ms. Abernathy and Ms. Martz recently. We've created a bus discipline matrix to kind of come up with a more uniformed way to work through some of these issues with behavior that we're having. But that's often what the number one concern is, right? I mean, when you're driving a bus, and I tell everybody this when they come through, I probably told Ms. Lohr, Dr. Painter, I probably told everybody here that has come through our training program to get a bus license, is the actual physical act of driving a school bus isn't overly difficult once you figure out the size of the bus, the dimensions of it, the angles, the turns, right? Things like that. You can do it. Most everybody can do that without much of a problem. The problem for a lot of drivers is when you put 60, 70 plus kids behind them, when their main focus has to be the safety of what's going on with the kids on the bus by watching the road and all the distractions there, right? So the behavior of what's going on behind them is often can be challenging. So that would be number one, pay and behavior issues.
I know maybe you haven't, just the discipline matrix has only been probably in use the last month or two, right?
Last month or so.
Have you heard any response from your drivers about it's been helpful or?
I have not. I know Ms. Abernathy had sent information, correspondence out to all of our principals and asked to share this with the drivers. I've talked to a lot of them about it just individually. We're actually going to have next week, we're going to be hosting bus driver banquets at a couple of our high schools. And that's a large part of what I'm going to be discussing there with all the drivers, because we should have most everybody in attendance. So
okay,
it's going to be about that. Yeah.
Thank you.
As a mother who drives a minivan with 3 children, that's plenty in my car. So that's kudos to our drivers who have 50, 60 kiddos and they get them safely to and from school. And thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All for all the hard work you do. Our transportation department is really incredible. And what I'm seeing here is we are really squeezing every dollar we can out of every mile, everything out of these buses. And it might just be time that we need to start investing a little bit more in this, so we don't have some of these buses that look like, they're going to have 110 or at least 15 years old. That's going to be a lot of exiting all at once if we're not careful. So we need to be making a plan to get ahead.
I just lastly wanted to say, I want to commend you for going above and beyond the recommendations to inspect, because we were just discussing how we are excited about employees that go above and beyond. And so, hey, thank you for doing that and prioritizing safety and for putting this together for us. I could keep talking about it, but I think I'll email you.
I want to clarify something I said earlier too. I didn't want it to sound like y'all didn't care about safety. I know you do.
Oh,
but I know on my end of it, I don't hear from the parents when the kids are late. Y'all hear about the kids being late. So, I know y'all concerned about safety too, but my number one concern is safety. If they're late, that's fine.
You keep that at the front. That's a good thing.
That's right.
But I didn't want it to sound like y'all didn't care about it.
Oh, no, not at all. We didn't take it that way.
Like I said, it's the first time I've been up here doing this. It's probably a whole lot of stuff I said didn't make sense.
I would like to take a moment to publicly thank you and Chris and Steve Welsh, because I can't tell you guys the number of times I'll get on a bus and I'll look around and I'll start familiarizing myself and I can't figure out how to open the door. And I have to text them and be like, hey, bus number 118, how do I open the door? And they get right back with me.
Sometimes I got to sit there and think, okay, 118. Okay, it's set up like this, because every one of them is
But you can always tell me exactly what I need to know. And thank you all for answering my questions every time.
Actually, you guys are more bus-related questions. Just sorry. This is a topic that comes up in my house all the time, and I've Googled it to no end. But I'd love to have the answer from my son. Why don't they have seatbelts on buses?
You want to take it?
Okay. If you have a seatbelt on the bus, if you have seatbelts on the bus, other than just one for a problem student or something, it has a sensor in it, and if it senses weight on that seat, it might not even be a student on that seat. It might be their book bag laying on the seat. The bus won't move without that seatbelt being latched. And if you have a bus full of seatbelts, it's, at the time when we priced it 3 years ago, it was an extra $50,000 per bus for seatbelts. And then you have to have a aid on every bus to make sure every child stays in.
Latched and they stay seated.
If they unlatch it when you're going down the road, the bus will keep going. But as soon as you come to a full stop, if that seatbelt's not latched, it won't let it go back in gear again.
And school buses are a proven means to be one of the safest forms of transportation, right? I mean, those things really are. Unfortunately, we have been in accidents right over the years, and most everybody comes out of there without too many issues, right? Because they are just built like tanks. They really are. And if a student is seated as they properly should be, right? Seat down or facing forward, right? Butt on the seat. It's a very safe means when we use it properly.
We've had a few wrecks since I've been here 20 some odd years, and we've had a few accidents. I'd say 95% of them has not been our fault, but the only one we have lost was the one with the train. Everything else we won. Buses are tough. They're tough.
Very tough.
Well, thank you.
They're tough. Yes, ma'am.
And I also want to add that people are just super respectful of buses most of the time. There's the idiot. You have to be careful. There's the idiot that'll cut you off. But I'm going to call you in like tomorrow and be like, I need a bus to go to DC and I want a yellow bus. Jake knows I always say I want a yellow bus when I go to DC because I have literally stopped in the middle of the road and people have waved me over because those big yellow things, 90% of people know to be careful around them. So they are super safe.
And Ms. Lore can easily attest to the state of our buses with the fleet quality, right? Some of the spares that we have at schools versus some of the newer buses, some of the newer spares. So like if she's going to DC or to Blacksburg, we're not going to give her a 1994 model bus and say, take this one, right? We're just not going to do that. So we could. Yeah, that's what happened.
You might now.
Thank you all.
Yeah,
Do
thank you.
appreciate your time and coming
appreciate you very
and
much.
presenting. Okay, Dr. Shiflett. Dr. Shiflett is going to be presenting to us the superintendent's budget recommendations for 2026, 2027. While he's coming to the front, I will say that we've had 2 board work sessions over the last month to work on this. And so now I think we've got a plan.
Yes, so thank you, Chair Hurst and board members. And one of my notes was, this shouldn't be new to you, right? So we had a work session, I believe it was on February the 18th, and again on March 4th. We tried a different approach. Instead of doing our 2x2 meetings, we decided to have full board work sessions, and I think that was beneficial for all of us. So I'm going to try to kind of walk through this more so for the public maybe than for the board, right? So as always, we want to think about what are our priorities when we're setting the budget, making sure that our budget is reflected in what it is we hope to accomplish. And when we look at our comprehensive plan, the things that we have addressed that we want to focus primarily on are school safety, academic excellence, employee recruitment and retention, student behavioral health. And as always, as we work through this budget, we want to be collaborative with our Rockingham County staff and their leadership. And I think we have continued that. Justin and Moyers and I have met several times with Casey and Trish, and we've also had an ad hoc committee meeting as well. Expected revenue, so miscellaneous revenue, really no changes expected. A lot of those dollars come from I think Medicaid. State revenue, there is going to be a bit of an increase of $11,873,073. So that is based on the governor's budget. So at this point, as you are well aware, there's no budget agreement yet between the House and the Senate, so they're working that out. So in this budget, we used, again, the governor's budget, Governor Youngkin's budget, and we included the 2% raise, which was in his budget. And there was also some additional funding for at-risk students. If the state budget changes once this is passed, we'll have to make some necessary adjustments. Expected revenue, federal, we are expecting an increase of $225,000. This will be in Title I. That'll be take us over $6 million in federal revenue. Our local share revenue will be a decrease of $1.5 million. So asking our Board of Supervisors for $1.5 million less this year than last year, since we received more of a surplus from the state revenue. So the total budget, $201,058,735. So it's an increase of over $10 million, about 5.5%. As we worked through the budget sessions, we continue to talk about our EL enrollment numbers. I just want to share them just to capture this for you. In the last 5 years, 147% increase in EL numbers. So last year we hired, I think, 13 EL teachers. And so we continue to monitor that. Special education enrollment, 27% increase in the past 5 years. And so that is something we monitor as well. So sometimes it's not just about the number of students, but it's what are their needs and what do we have to provide to make sure they're getting a free and appropriate public education. So I want to highlight some of the expenditures. School safety, one of the initiatives is $369,000. This is for a Verkada guest registry system. And this would be put in all the school offices, with maybe future down the road, put them in the vestibules, but it would also allow our schools it would be another added layer of safety. If you recall last year, our big expense was the Verkada camera systems, which have been a huge benefit to our administrators and our teachers. When we talk about employee recruitment and retention, a 2% raise for all employees, and that's going to cost us about $2.2 million. Clerical salary scale upgrade. Every year we try to go through and look at our salaries and compare them to other school divisions to make sure we're not off in what is sort of the norm in our community. And we've noticed that our salary scale for our clerical workers was a little low, so we've added an additional 5% raise for those folks, which will be an estimated cost of $300,000. Plus looked about adding a stipend for clerical staff who are bilingual, who are working in our front offices, who can help serve our families and students who are coming in and having trouble with English. School psychologist salary scale update. I think Mr. Chris Bryant shared some of those desires in his SPED 3-year plan, trying to get those salaries more competitive. And then adding a supplement to our LPN nurses who do have RN licensure. And so any of our LPNs who are hired as LPN, but if they have an RN, we would give them $3,000 per nurse. Some other division initiatives within, thinking about not just employee recruitment and retention, but expanding our math teacher pilot. As you are aware, we have a pilot at Pleasant Valley Elementary School this year with 3 math teachers. So those classroom teachers are having an additional planning time, and also they are not responsible for teaching math. We have 3 expert math teachers teaching math. So we want to expand that, try it at another school or 2, and just make sure that the juice is worth the squeeze when it comes to investing in this project. We are starting a junior ROTC program at Broadway High School, so we'll need to hire a teacher and then also, provide uniforms and fatigues, dress uniforms, what have you. We still have 2 SROs in the budget from last year. We've got some grant funding for that, which has been really, really nice. Need to replace the HVAC at Turner Ashby High School, $1.6 million. Fine Arts Capital Project Fund, $105,000, and 8 buses. So Steve, Chris, we're trying to get you there. 8 buses for this budget cycle, and then food service operating transfer, $923,000. And so typically, food service has really operated and just kind of been self-sustaining, but the last year they had to dip into some of their reserves. Their reserves are basically diminished, and so we're going to have to support them. And so that's also a big piece of our additional state revenue. Some other division initiatives, Justin has advocated for us to have a technology capital projects fund. So over the last number of years, we have been leasing devices. And, you know, that sometimes works in the short term when you just don't have enough cash on hand. But what happens is you're paying interest, right? And so we were losing $300,000 and $400,000 over the course of a lease. And so those are real dollars that we can invest towards other projects. So Justin says, if we can begin to build this capital projects fund with this $650,000, then moving forward, when we need more Chromebooks or iPads or what have you, the cash is there, so we don't have to basically borrow the money through a lease. So it's going to actually save us in the long run. It's a good use. Transportation capital projects funds, also trying to put some money back for additional buses, vans, whatever Mr. Sowers and his teams would need. Spotswood High School needs a concession stand and a press box for $500,000. School record retention going digital. They've asked a lot of our schools, their file rooms are just at capacity. So we're going to try to digitize all of those. And then also providing some dollars for EMS services at our middle school athletic events. Some personnel. So I mentioned earlier the increase in special education. So we have one SPED teacher in the budget. This is, you know, above and beyond what we currently have. 2 early childhood special education assistants, 2 VPI assistants, 1 elementary music teacher, 1 elementary art teacher, 0.6 elementary challenge teacher, 1 Title 1 teacher, a 0.5 attendance clerk. We have 4 secondary enrollment positions, a TLC teacher, 7 elementary teacher enrollments, and 1 elementary assistant. Another mechanic for the bus garage, so we've added that in there to help out. I know that those guys are working hard. And then expanding our ag teachers at the high school to 12-month contracts. So just again, to kind of capture this, we are asking for our Board of Supervisors a decrease in local funds of $1.5 million. So our total request to them will be $82,872,281. Want to highlight capital projects very quickly. We have, if we make these dollars transfer, we'll have a transportation projects, $400,000, technology projects, $650,000, fine arts, $105,000. So Supervisor of Fine Arts, Becky Ford, you know, realizes she has a significant need at a particular school or groups of schools. She'll have some money she can tap into for big items. And then Pleasant Valley Elementary School, $1.5 million. McGackey'sville, over $10 million, $10.5. And then Mass-Nut Technical Center, $52 million. And then Elkton Elementary School is sort of winding down, so it's at the end of that list. And then the next page is our food service cafeteria fund. And you can see there's a transfer in there of $923,114. That would make them balance. That's the sort of the plan moving forward. Still awaiting maybe if there will be any new legislation that will impact breakfasts or what schools are required to pay for meals and so forth. So next steps is I will come back to the board at our meeting on Monday, March 23rd for seeking your approval. If you have anything you want to talk about and discuss between now and then, let's make sure we do that and make sure everything is the way we want it. And then on Wednesday, March 25th, I will be in this room presenting to the County Board of Supervisors our request. And just understand that state budget may not be finalized until our budget process is over. So if we get more revenue, we'll have to, determine whether or not, we want to revisit the salary from 2% to 3% if we get more money. How do we earmark? There are some things that we wanted to do that we couldn't do, so we need to, do we revisit that? Do we, earmark some money for MTC, FF&E as we think about that project? So I think there's needs, right? More buses. We can put that at the end of every list, right? Additional buses. That's important. I want to say thank you to Justin Moyers for his hard work on keeping up with all the calc tools and everything. It's not always, the numbers don't always come out very, it's not just one number. It's just a list of all the different categories and what has to be spent where and how we have to make the match and what requires a match and what doesn't require a match. And Justin does a great job working through that and keeping us on track with those things. And Zena Gillis, who supervises finance, as well as Brenda, Justin's administrative assistant, and Caitlin working through this. And I want to thank each of you because I felt we met, I think, in December. I think we started having one-on-one. Justin and I met with each of you individually to say, hey, what's priority for you as an individual board member? And, we're taking notes. And then, in lieu of the 2x2s, having the work sessions, I thought were really great. And I mean, they were some long days, but I thought it was very productive. And everyone had an opportunity to share their concerns and learn from each other and hear what other folks have to say. So thank you for all your work, and we'll see what happens, what comes out of Richmond, right?
Thank you, Dr. Shiflett.
Question. Because, and I think I know, I just want to clarify for the world. You mentioned during the capital fund part of it, if you want to go back to that slide, that fine arts and technology capital project funds, that's not going to be in the CIP fund per se. One more slide back. Is it going to be in the CIP fund?
But it'll be earmarked for those particular projects.
Okay,
So-
maybe I'm confused on how the CIP fund works.
They're for large projects.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm trying to think how to say, do we control that money, or is that controlled
Yes.
by our parents? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Is that, you know what I'm saying?
Understood.
Okay.
But
Okay, so I didn't-
also,
It will have a line item.
those are, just to clarify, those are one-time initiatives, starter funds, if you will.
Mhm.
Yes,
But they are part of our CIP, but it's our CIP,
yes. Our capital
not the
projects.
countywide CIP.
Yes.
Okay, right, okay. That was the clarification I needed. Thank you.
Good question.
Anything else for Dr. Shiflett? Okay. Thank you very much for all your work on this budget. I know it's a long process. I know for board members, it feels like it drags on for a couple of months, but it's one of the most important things that we do as a board member is set the budget and take care of the division and do good things for kids. And so student outcomes are at the heart of our budget decisions. And so I want to thank Dr. Shiflett and all the board members also for all their hard work over the last couple of months, because it does take time, but it's worthwhile. So thank you all. That wraps up our information items. We'll now go into committee reports. Ms. Cave, did you have anything from your Gov School committee?
Yeah. So we met on February 25th, and we had not met since October. And that's pretty standard, but I don't know what happened in October. I think we had put committee reports maybe on the agenda, and I hadn't had the meeting yet, so we had decided to wait. And then there was just a lot going on in November and December, and so this is the first committee report since then. I had a hard time going back and thinking about what we did in October, but just a couple highlights from that meeting. Let's see, we talked about, is she a doctor? I want to call her, well, Ms. Frame had brought up that the Constitution and bylaws for the regional governor's school had not been updated since it opened in 2005. Not that there was any concerns there or anything. It's not something I'm concerned about, but just as a matter of being good stewards of the school, just to have an attorney look at those and update us. And so we started talking about that in October. The update in February was just that I think they were still working on it. So anyways, when we get that, if there's anything significant, I will report that. And back in October, we got an update on dual enrollment expansion there at the governor's school, and due to a lack of interest, they weren't doing that or expanding that. And then one of the teachers there, Catherine, is it Kluss? Is that how you say her last name, Dr. Shiflett? Yeah. She gave an update on the Governor School Foundation, which began as a research project to students. The students completed the paperwork to create a 501c3, recruited board members, and were planning fundraising events, and the creation of this foundation was something that the VDOE had recommended in some evaluations. And I don't think that we got an update on that in February, Dr. Shiflett, but anyways, that was really interesting in October. So as they update on that, I will update you. And then we approved the instructional calendar for 26, 27. They're still working on the 27, 28 calendar. I imagine that to be very challenging to try to schedule things out that far. So there was an approval requested for some funds from the fund balance, and that was to fund 8 digital stereo microscopes, 8 digital microscopes for slide viewing, and 1 petrographic microscope, which I will not detail what that is here. But anyways, and so that was voted on and approved, and we discussed some of the budget. We also discussed student development course. They're not going to offer that there anymore. That's for 1 credit. They were saying that it didn't really benefit students that weren't taking dual enrollment classes, and that those that need it, which were, I guess, students maybe going to Laurel Ridge and Blue Ridge, that they can take that online. So just minor updates. And then the big fun update, no change in tuition, and they're going to honor our seniors on May 13th at 9 o'clock. So that's the update.
Thank you, Ms. Cave. Appreciate that. That's a lot of really good information, and thanks for representing our board in that committee. Ms. Laura, did you have anything from Regional SPED?
Yes, we actually had a Zoom meeting to finalize the budget for the regional SPED. And I want to thank Mr. Brandt and Mr. Moyers for attending on Zoom and being available texting. That was a fun meeting, wasn't it, boys? But essentially, the whole purpose of the meeting was to make sure that we're all on the same page with what services can be offered through the regional program. And there were a couple of divisions that need some programs that we don't take advantage of. We do it within our own system. So it was a fun meeting to hear about all that. And we finally made it through it, and we passed the budget. So, so we now have a budget passed for the regional program. And thank you for helping me with that.
And thank you also to Ms. Laura for representing our school board on that committee as well. Board members, I think that brings us to superintendent comments and then other business, which will be school board highlights, questions, and comments. So Dr. Shiflett, we'll start with you.
Right. Thank you, Chair Hurst. First, I want to congratulate Jackie Croy. She is the winner of the Employee Perfect Attendance Recognition for the month of February. So Ms. Croy is an instructional assistant at Pleasant Valley Elementary School, I think in kindergarten and first grade. So I'm going back to the little ones again. So I'm not sure what someone's trying to tell me. But anyway, I'll look forward to that. I think I'm going to be subbing for her in the Friday before spring break. I think is what we've agreed to. But looking forward to it. I actually do enjoy my time being in the schools with students. That's how I began my journey, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that. Also wanted to let the board know, I've been trying to keep you informed, but our culture surveys will be sent on Monday, March 16th. I've informed our employees to be looking for that and try to explain what we're trying to accomplish with that, but just wanted to keep you sort of in the loop as we're working through that. And finally, I just want to give a shout out. I know earlier tonight, Lauren Shiflett was here from JMU Center for Economic Education, but I think what a great resource that has been to us over the years. When I was a classroom teacher, I took advantage of the resources they provided to me as a teacher. I taught civics and economics. I never won any state awards, by the way, but I tried. But it was just great hands-on, concrete ways to teach economics, because that's a very abstract concept, right? You talk about supply and demand and inflation and all those things, right? So they have great teaching strategies that they share with our teachers that they take back to our students. That's been a wonderful partnership. And I was looking on the internet, but I could not find the day of the gym fair. She said it's in April. So I hope that once we get the date, I can share that with you and you can attend the gym fair. It's usually held at the Festival Center, and a number of our schools participate in that, where kids are have created or building a product, and then they sell to each other. And it's pretty, I think, Mrs. Laura, you've been before.
I got to go last year.
It's
It's
a fun-
so much fun.
It's a fun
Yes.
time. So we'll try to get the date for you on that, because you would enjoy it. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shiflett. Moving into school board highlights, questions, and comments. We'll start with Ms. Cave.
Okay, I'm ready. No, it's totally fine. I just,
The other end, I just
no, it's good. I just zoned out. No, I was able to attend the Elkton Middle School cheer showcase a few weeks back, and I forgot to post online about it, and so I feel bad. So, because a lot of stuff I try to push out to social media, and I try to sort of stick to business here, but that was really great. It's home to me there, and so it was just, I love seeing the cheerleaders, and they all got awards, and their parents were there, and it was just a good time. I read at McGacksville Elementary School for Read Across America, and I did not realize that day when I went in that it was going to be reading to several different grades. I thought it was just an invite from one teacher, but it was totally fine. I just hadn't prepared content for 3 different grades, but it worked out. It worked out. And it was one other thing. I know we're still going through the musical season, and I was able to attend Spotswood's musical, and I was thinking it was something else. But anyway, so we're very busy, and I cannot believe that we're just a few months from graduation. It makes me a little bit nervous because it's a little bit earlier this year. So I keep on saying it's in May, it's not June, and it just feels a little bit different. But anyways, I think that was it. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cave. Ms. Irons?
I've just been having a blast getting to do lots of fun stuff, and that's what I care to highlight right now. I just want to say, we do have these long meetings where we talk about a lot of things, and so sometimes we come up here and we just vote yes. It's because we've already talked about it at length and in depth and understand it fully and are ready to go. But I was super excited to see all the awards here tonight. I think it's amazing to highlight all the really cool stuff, the positive stuff, the projects, the awards that our staff and students are earning, because when we positively reinforce these things and we generate that kind of energy in the division, and I'm really excited to be part of that. I got to see the musical at Penn's this weekend. It was like so hard not to sing along because it felt like everyone's opportunity to sing their favorite Disney theme song. It was fantastic. Really well done. Additionally, with awards, I got some really great news today from one of my neighbors who's a Spotswood student who he called out of 14,000 applicants, 60 recipients earned the Jefferson scholarship to UVA. It's full ride, and he is one of them. So he's like our 3rd or 4th one in just several years. So we're doing really great things in Rockingham County, and there's certainly some hard things, but we're working on those too. I would say I want to speak to on the budget in case this comes up, but the Vercata sign-in experience will sort of change a little bit how we sign in. It's going to make our school safer, and it's something I've already experienced at a private school in the area where I sometimes substitute teach, and you just scan your license and it shows up if there's anything that we need to be aware of, whether it's something custodial or something more major. But I'm excited about that, and I'm really glad to see we kept it in the budget. So anyway, I could talk all night, but I will not do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Irons. Ms. Burgoyne?
I feel like during musical season, we always have so many things to talk about because you could go through every single one of them, but we really have a lot of talented kids in our community. And I've been to Spotswood, I went to Penn's, and I immediately texted Sarah and said, TA is going to have such a hard time because there's probably 50 kids up and coming that are so talented, and they're going to have such a hard time. A good thing, but also a hard time because they're just so much talent at that school. And I was very impressed because, they're 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And so TA better be ready. Sarah and I have been visiting a couple schools together. We went to Penn's We judged a dog show, and that was, yes, thank you. It was a blast. It was really hard though, because you get to see, so they're cardboard cutouts of dogs, and then they paint them to look realistic, and they do a whole research project behind them, and then they show the dogs. And so, I love dogs. It's my, we at one point had 5 dogs. So I was like, yay, this is going to be great. And it broke my heart, because it is so hard to see a group of kids who has put so much into their project, and then to have to pick one as the winner. So I don't ever want to go back, but I would like to go watch it. I don't want to judge again. And the same, we got invited to judge an FFA competition at TA, and that was really fun. Those kids, because I don't come from a farming background at all, and most of them didn't either, but they're so educated and they spend so much time, and they're just incredibly impressive. I don't know that I was that well-spoken in high school, or as passionate about one thing as these kids are. So super impressive just across the board in our schools. Let me think. I do want to say to Chris and Jake, thank you again. And absolutely, kids, they're always number one when we make decisions. And sometimes I think we get so wrapped up, and Dr. Shiflett is always quick to remind us, kids are number one. That's what we're doing here. And so, I don't care if they're late as long as they're safe. I'll just agree with you on that one. And then also thank you to everyone involved with the budget, because we have spent more time, I feel this year than ever going over the budget. And I'm glad that I'm not on another budget like you two are. So thank you for taking on that, because one is enough for me. So anyway, thank you.
Ms. Lohr?
Thank you. So I had a nice little list written out, but then you started on the buses, and of course, buses are close to my heart. And as you were talking about late versus safe, it always reminds me of, there's this clip. Anybody remember the show Wings? There's scene where the lady's like, okay, ma'am, I know the plane is going to be late. So would you rather be late, or would you rather be the late Mrs. Smith? So safety first, right? And that always makes me chuckle. Yes, we all definitely, we want them to be safe and late, not the late. So I would also like to thank Chris Brandt for inviting me to the autism training earlier. I guess it was last week, actually. And that was actually my first visit to Rockingham Park. We helped me out here. We had people from all over the region come in and receive training about different autism programs. And we held it at Rockingham Park, because we have access to that wonderful facility, and it was really great. I'm really thankful to the county for making those things available to us. So definitely shout out to our SPED team and Rockingham County Parks and Rec for working together on that. I can't believe you guys didn't like the dog show, and like you were. It was hard to judge the dog show, but not the speaking contest, because the dog show, that was fun. That was just, this is your winner, yay, go home.
There was no rubric for the dog show.
Okay.
And I love a good rubric.
The speaking contest goes on to compete again. And to that point, I got to judge the Parley conduct of meetings state contest this year. And we had I judged conduct of meeting, which is like junior varsity, where Parley is the varsity contest. And so it's it's middle school and ninth graders at the conduct contest, and everybody brings their own judge. And I think I was TA's judge, but I was also helping out with Pence. And honestly, I ranked Pence maybe a little lower than I should have, and maybe even because I didn't want to be biased. And these are 8th graders, and they did such a great job. I was nervous about that. And it turns out everybody else ranked them number 1, and they won the whole contest. So Pence will be representing Virginia at the National FFA contest coming up in October. So yay, Pence. And we also need to be super proud of TA because they did an excellent job as well. And that was a whole lot of fun, just watching everybody do Parley really super fast. And finally, of course, musicals. I am so enjoying the musicals. If you guys haven't made it to a musical yet, you have a chance this weekend to go to Turner Ashby's Little Mermaid. Super excited for that. I did ask this year, they asked us what our preferences were. So I told Ms. Ford, I like to sit in the front. I like to be able to see what's going on. And she sat me at Pence. At Pence, they sat me front and center. And I was smiling and I was having a great time until they got to that one song about how we all want our children to go on and be successful. And my kids have just left. I'm a recent empty nester and I was ugly crying when all the kids were up there trying to sing. So I'm like, maybe don't put me in the front row again. But it's so much fun. So I recommend you guys get to a musical if you haven't yet. And I believe that is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you,
Miss
Ms.
Hurst,
Ford.
I remembered.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
ahead.
It was the spelling bee, and I can't.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, the regional spelling bee was at Skyline over the weekend. Was it this past weekend? The days go by so fast. Yeah, Saturday. And anyways, I'm sort of a geek when it comes to that stuff. So, but I go to all the spelling bees. Okay, I'm just it's my interest. Okay, and I don't know that I've been to one that was so back and forth, like so grueling. I'm like, these two kids, there's no word that they do not know how to spell. And I just I felt like RCPS was really represented well. And I think the two that it came down to, I haven't seen anything since Saturday, but was it Peter Muhlenberg maybe was the second place, and the winner was maybe Thomas Harrison. Did anybody follow up on that? But anyways, I've been to so many spelling bees, I'm beginning to recognize these kids, and the kid that won, like I've seen multiple times before. So he's just a little guy, and he's just a really big brain. And so they both did really well, but I just really love those things. And, thank you, Kim Tate, for the work that you do with that as well. So anyways, that was the other thing. I didn't want to.
That was a good.
I don't want
that
to
was a
leave
good thing.
those. Everybody's got their own thing, and I
That
just
was a
didn't
good
want to
thing.
leave those kids out.
I love that you geek out over and you're like watching them grow, because that's the same thing I do with musical. I'm
Yeah.
like she said, I'm like, ooh, I can't wait to see what role you're going to play next year.
Yeah,
So,
they got to like the 30-something round, and I was like counting them because I wanted to know, and all of a sudden it was like I lost count, and I think they were at like 33, 34. I don't know, but I've just never seen anything like it, and I was like, wow. But I told my husband, I was like, I'm invested in this now. I cannot leave. Like, we had a ton of other things that day, but I was like, it was 3 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it was 3 hours, but it was awesome. Well, they did. It was something, so.
I'll wrap up tonight's comments just by sharing. Board members are very busy doing lots of things, watching kids in competitions. I mean, this weekend I went to the TSA Valley Regional Spring Fair qualifier, and I just stayed for the open ceremonies because most of it's not open to the public to watch the competitions. But what I noticed, I watched the officers run their meeting, and when they introduced the officers, I mean, this is a regional program, so many school divisions, and 7 of the 9 board members are Rockingham County students. And I think, and there were several running for office, so I got to listen to the candidate speeches and things like that. But I was just in all of our business this weekend, saw that in the morning, then went to the Under the Sea Tea at TA that the cast and cast put on. They had a meet and greet tea party. Lots of little princesses came to have tea with Ariel and all the characters. And then, wrapped up with Dare to Dream at Pence. And all of these things are incredible opportunities for kids. And yet it takes educators and people behind the scenes to make those things happen. It takes the dedication of a teacher who says, I'm going to encourage everyone in my chapter to try out for officer at TSA, right? Like, it takes a coach, it takes a teacher to invest in our kids. And I think that's part of what makes Rockingham County great. We had the Under the Sea Tea Party that took several staff members to pull off, lots of parent involvement. It was a great experience. Same thing with Dare to Dream. It's an all hands on deck kind of event. And these are great opportunities for kids that we get to go and watch and see with spelling bees and FFA competitions and dog shows and all the wonderful things that are going on. But I just want to say thank you to our teachers and staff for going the extra mile to coaching these kids, investing in these kids, taking them to opportunities. These are the things that make learning meaningful, memorable, and keep kids in school. So with that, I thank you all for coming out tonight. Hope you all are enjoying the lovely spring-ish weather. Hope it stays, but it's Virginia, who knows? Anyway, thank you all for coming out tonight. Drive safely. This meeting is adjourned.